Dani, thank you for joining us. Love that you're spending time and finding time for us. So much appreciated. I know we spoke this morning. I would just love to, one, thank you for taking the time, and then two, turn it over to you and kind of you can explain. I know Phil started to explain who you are and what you're all about and where you've been playing and where you are now. But what we just kind of finished chatting about as these three teams that are here is the path is almost more important than where you end up, right? And just if you want to touch upon that, and we certainly have some questions for you, but if you want to start with just kind of explaining who you are and what you're all about, that would be awesome.
Yeah. First, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and it's so great to see all your faces. I know a lot of you, so hi everyone. And it also shows a lot about you to take time out of your day to try to get better yourself. So thanks again for coming. Yeah, I grew up in Southern California. I played for the Blues my whole life. But something people don't know about me is I was actually on the B team for a majority of my youth development. And I think that really shaped who I became, because being on the B team, like, I had to work so hard to try to make the A team. So it really laid out a foundation of like work ethic. And if you want something, you can get it if you work hard enough. And then after that, I got a scholarship to go to Santa Clara University, where I played there for 4 years, and I met some of you. And after my 4 years at Santa Clara, I got drafted out to Orlando. And as some of you guys know, that's players like Marta, Alex Morgan, Ali Krieger. And I just remember like showing up and just being like shocked. I honestly was starstruck. Like, these girls are my teammates. Like, how do I act towards them? They're so good. And the biggest jump, I would say, it wasn't the speed of play. It wasn't that they were so much better. It was this mental side of the game. Like, mentally, they were so good at a specific thing or their craft, or they were the ones that were training extra, and they just immediately stuck out. And I would say that was the biggest difference from going from college to pro. And yeah, I was there for 4 years, and I just got traded to Tacoma, or the Seattle Reign. And I'm really excited to be here because, again, there's a lot of really talented players that I'm excited to learn from and grow from. And I was here for a week, and then all of this happened. So we kind of like, our training stopped, and we're going to be going into a preseason. So, I just spent the past 4 months like ramping up to try to be fit and be ready to go. And so this kind of isn't ideal, obviously, but it is what it is, and trying to make the most of it. So every morning and every day I'm training and doing something to try to get better.
Can you give us a typical day of kind of what you're doing physically, what you're doing technically? And then I think you mentioned that they're sending videos to kind of go over some film too. So tactically, what you guys are working on. So maybe what a typical day looks like for you.
Yeah, so typically I wake up and I'll go train at the field at like 10:30, and my coach will send me a running program. So whether it's raining, whether it's sunny, I go out there and I'll do the running and conditioning on my own. And then after that, if I'm lucky and there's a teammate there, which we're allowed to train with one other person, then we have like a training program that we go through, which is like a technical session. So if we're alone, we have a session laid out for us. But if we're lucky enough to have a partner to do it with, then we'll have like more passing and whatnot. But I'm realizing, like, rain or shine, I'm just so excited because I miss it so much. Like, I realize like I took for granted those trainings. And I just like love the opportunity to get outside. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but when I finally get to go outside, I'm just so excited. So it just reminded me how much I love playing soccer and how lucky I am to do it.
Awesome. I think what I certainly want to get into the pathway of kind of where these girls are at now, and kind of maybe you rewinding the clock a little bit and kind of discussing. I know you started to talk about, hey, I was on the B team, which I think is great to hear for young players to hear. One question that we have is, what is the biggest difference between kind of playing with pros and even playing at Santa Clara?
Mhm.
So the girls, like, there's always kind of steps up, right? Meaning, hey, high school is not as good as college, and college is not as good as the pros, and maybe pros and national teams. So, what was it about the next level up that you have found to be the really glaring as to what separates college and pro players?
Yeah, I would say I kind of mentioned it earlier. The mentality thing. Everyone is technical. Everyone is tactical. Everyone is physically fit. So none of those things really separate you. But what separates you is like the things you can control and the things that make you who you are. I think sometimes we get caught trying to be like players we're not, or to like, you have strengths about you that you bring to the table. So make those really good, work really hard at those, and continue to control what you can. But I would say for me personally, like mentally, just realizing like these girls are just like me. Like the only thing that's separating them is their mentality, their confidence, their self-belief. Like those are things you can completely control. So that definitely made a huge difference for me.
Fantastic. I, as mentioned, I'd love to maybe rewind a little bit and chat about when you were 14, 15, 16.
Mhm.
Um, this is always a good one that maybe we hear all the time, is what are some things that maybe you would have done differently knowing what you know now, right? Um, what were some things that, hey, I was on track and I was doing them at this time in my career at 14, 15 that helped me get there?
Yeah.
So maybe that's a two-part question. I think that would be good for our girls to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I love that the current generation, you guys have access at your fingertips for technical videos and YouTube, and you can constantly find different ways to improve, and with trainers and coaches. And I personally coach and do a lot of individual trainings, and that's something as a kid growing up, I didn't have that much exposure to. And I think I have like as Phil said, like a hardworking underdog mentality, and um, my grittiness is what makes me who I am. But I think if I would have put in work technically, that would have definitely helped me. So at your age, like really, and I know that Phil does this with a lot of his teams as well, but really focusing on like the technical side and the training outside of your practice. Um, and then also when you're at practice, like you have a small amount of time. So when you're there, give everything you can. Like always try to be your best, and know that like every day is an opportunity to get better. Like every moment is an opportunity to get better, whether it's habits, whether it's um I don't know, books. Like there's just always opportunity to grow and learn. And so just be a sponge, talk to people, talk to your coaches, just always try to better yourself. Yeah.
Can I open it up to any girls now that, hearing what you've heard so far, maybe our conversation before, Nick, if there's anything that you kind of trying to keep it relevant with your team, or Phil, um, I'd like to open it up to the coaches first, and then if there's anything that you guys maybe feel like would be relevant, and then we can open it up to the girls. Nick, is there anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah. Hi, Dani.
Bye.
So yesterday, actually, all of my teams, we talked about the Alex Morgan video where she talks about her 10 keys to success.
Mhm.
And most of the girls pointed out that having self-confidence and working harder than everyone else are kind of like the two biggest things that stood out on that list. And I think it sounds like what you've described so far, that hard work has basically gotten you a lot further than just talent alone.
Yeah.
And hard work, I think there's no substitute for hard work. But I wanted to ask you two specific questions about when did you start to watch the game? Like college level or professional level?
No, I'm actually really glad you brought that up because that probably would be something I wish I did when I was younger. Just growing up in America, you know, you always had baseball and football. Like, no one in my family played soccer, so I didn't have much exposure to it until I got to the college level when we started, our coaches would have us watch film sessions of Barcelona and other teams. And then now I'm finally have a fantasy league in the Premier League and I'm a lot more interested in it. And it has definitely affected my game immensely. So I think watching it is so important. I'd say one of the best years I had was after I was injured because I was forced to look at the game differently. I was forced to watch it more. And I just think it's a good point. It's very important.
And then also, how old were you when you like decided that maybe you wanted to go far in soccer, like play college soccer or even after?
So I played multiple sports growing up, which I got very lucky. Like all my coaches were completely on board with it. But I would say it was around my sophomore year of high school when I committed and I knew that I was going to college for soccer. And then I knew it was something that I loved so much. Like it brought me so much joy and I was so um, passionate every time I did it. So I'd probably say around my sophomore year of high school.
I will just add to that. In our meeting this morning, Dani, I don't know if you noticed, I kind of write and jot things down here at my desk. And when you first came on and Phil was kind of chatting about you, um, you know, he had mentioned, yeah, one thing she probably won't mention is that she's so fit and she's so athletic. And he continues to say all these things about you. And one thing that stood out for me, and just in our conversation this morning, is that I just had a really good feeling about who you are as a person, which we think and we value a ton in our club. So I'm sure it's nice to hear that coming from me or from us. That was one of the things that stood out for me, and I mentioned to Phil when I got off the phone with you. Just seemed like a really good person and genuinely want to help.
I was wondering what your fondest memory of playing college soccer was and something that you miss about it. And like
Yeah. I think college soccer, there's such a great team culture. You know, you're playing for your university. So it's a special moment. So I really like my favorite part was the girls. Like every time it's always about the people. Like I'll never look back on a season and, you know, you may remember one goal or you may remember one game, but it's just every day being with those girls and making such great memories. Genuinely, that was by far my favorite part. Yeah.
Who else has something for Dani? Yeah, Chip.
What was your recruiting process like?
Oh boy. I get this question all the time and it's so hard because it's changed so much. Because when I was getting recruited, they could talk to you when you were like in 8th grade, freshman year. Whereas now I don't think they can talk to you till you're like a junior or a senior. So yeah, for me, my process looked like I would email coaches that I was interested in going to their university and tell them when I was playing in showcases, which I don't even know if you guys play in anymore. So yeah, I definitely did it all on my own. Like my parents didn't help me with that process. So if I wanted to go somewhere, like I had to actively do stuff to do it. So I looked into schools I wanted to go to, I researched them, and then would reach out to them and try to get them out to my games. So yeah. If you have any questions about like your process, you can email me after because I might be able to help you with specific questions.
We got a question right here with Kai.
Okay.
Hi. So do at the highest level that you played, did the majority of the girls have the skill to like easily take on other girls 1v1?
That's a great one. Let's see. I would say it is something that our culture, like women's soccer in America, lacks. I think we grew up in I don't know, a very like possession oriented or like the individual creativity. I think it's definitely lacking. So I would say that's something that you guys, the younger generation, should focus on, like being creative on the ball and taking people on 1v1. Because when I was growing up, it was very like get the ball, pass it here, here's your default. Like it was very scripted. And I think I'm now starting to like break down those barriers as an adult, which as a kid, I wish I had that freedom, because that's what makes soccer so amazing, is that it's unlike baseball and football where it's like, here's the play, run it. Like you're in the middle of a play and you get to decide what you want. And I just love that freedom about soccer. So to your question, I wouldn't say there are a lot of people, but the ones that do it stand out. So.
Love, love, love that answer. Thank you, Dani. That's big time. Yeah, creativity is huge, and I couldn't agree more that we've created so many players who can pass from A to B, which there's definitely value there. But yeah, encouraging young players to be creative and confident, and being brave enough to take players on and change the game is huge. So yeah, we'd love to hear that.
No, I love that. I think being confident and being okay with making mistakes is so important. Like we had these little girls out to watch our training one day. There was 4 of us, and I wanted to make sure they saw when we were doing this passing pattern that we were messing up. Because there's this idea that you should do everything so perfect. And it's like, if you're doing it so perfect, are you really pushing yourself? Like, are you really pushing yourself out of your comfort zone? Because if you're going really fast, if you're trying to be better, like you're gonna make mistakes. But as long as you're giving 110% and you're constantly doing that, then you're finally gonna get to a point where it's gonna look close to perfect, but it's never gonna be perfect. So.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything? Coach Nick?
Dani, I got one more question. We asked the girls to talk about their strengths as a player and their areas that they think that they can get better.
Okay.
So can you maybe talk about that?
For myself? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of the areas I'm looking to be better at is my longer ranged passing and distribution. I play more of like a holding mid or an 8, a 6 or an 8. I don't know if you guys use numbers and whatnot, but so my strengths are like getting box to box, my ability to affect the play both like attacking and defensively, and be disruptive in the middle. But for me, my longer range passing and switching the point of attack is something that I personally need to get better at. So that's something I'm working on with left and right. So don't neglect your left foot right now.
Dani, I had one more question because some of the girls were asking if we could talk more about nutrition and just how we eat, how we take care of ourselves. Can you talk a little bit about what that means to you and how, the importance of how you eat and how you take care of yourself in terms of how you can perform?
Yeah. No, I think the older I got, the more I realized that the difference between you and another player is a very small difference. So the little things do matter. I mean, I started to feel such a difference when I paid attention to like what I was eating and how that impacted me. And it's important to know that everyone is different, and it's important to figure out what works for you. Because what might work for your friend might not work for you, and you might eat differently, and that's okay. But I definitely try to eat very healthy, and I'm conscious of that because I feel a difference in my body when I do, and I notice a difference in my performance when I do as well. So
How about sleep? Have you noticed a difference in how you take care of yourself in those ways, in how you play?
yeah, and again, I think it varies from player to player, but I definitely 8 to 9 hours. I definitely sleep a lot, and it makes a difference for sure. Just the way your body needs to recover, and that's like the best time for you to recover. So I know it's hard. We're on our phones a lot, and especially when we're probably going to bed. I started getting in the habit of putting my phone on the other side of the room when I go to bed because it really makes a difference. Helps me fall asleep. But yeah, it's definitely very beneficial to get a good night's sleep.
All good stuff. All good stuff. One thing that I would ask would it be possible? And man, I'm putting you on the spot. And I know we mentioned, so I'm not really putting you on the spot because we chatted about it this morning.
Yeah.
Would it be possible between now and the next 10 days, 2 weeks, if we were to do a follow-up with you with this group, and we could be creative in kind of what we could do? Maybe we could do a training, maybe we could do another follow-up like this. But is that something that you would be open to do with this group again?
I would love to do that. We can chat about a creative format, whether that's I can take you guys through one of my circuits that I have to do, like my little in-house gym. I can take you through one of those, or we can do some footwork, or which I know Phil already probably sent all that out. We could do a lot of different things, but yeah, I'd definitely be open to that.
Yeah, just thank you, Dani, for everything and taking time. And we look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks,
Stay
Dani.
healthy, stay safe. Speak soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye. Miss you all.
Bye.